qualitative, quantitative methods. So the real world language issues are the language teaching, for example, language policy, social linguistics issues, and our main here is the second language acquisition. So to investigate these complex area, researchers depend on the three primary methods, which call them the first one quantitative, and the qualitative and mixed method. So here the choice of depicting one of these methods depends on the researcher and his skills in depicting on the data that wanted to depict on the problem that want to solve. The idea of the first concept, which is the qualitative research method, it's rooted from the post-positivist paradigm. It assumes that there is an objective reality. So this reality can be measured, quantified, and analyzed statistically. So at the beginning, it started with the scientific or the scientific or the scholars that depict the science, Newton and Descartes. All these scholars developed a scientific method for observing the problems and forming an hypothesis about these and testing with the data. So the goal to ensure the way how to depict the problem objectively and to minimize the bias of these problems of these research. So for the quantitative area has many characteristics that qualify it to do this points. For example, it should be depends on the what? On the numerical data. So our main goal or the base ground, which is the numbers, starting with the numbers or depending on the number for analyzing the problems, and moving to approach, which is depicting or the process of depicting the approach, which could be deductively. What I mean by deductively? Do you have an idea? Deductive way, processing the problem, the steps of the research will depict it deductively. Do you have an idea? Deductively here, moving from general to what? Specific. So the process steps or goes on from the general ideas, the general theory or hypotheses, and moving to specific, which is the close-ended question, for example, and the goal to measure variables or to measure between these variables and to find the solution and to analyze these variables in scientific way. So establishing the correlation and the causation to generalize at the end when we find the problem and categorize the variabilities and analyze them, we will at the end in conclusion we will reach to findings. These findings, particularly with the quantitative method, will be generalizable. We start from, for example, we make a research about certain problem in, for example, a small town in Al-Diwaniyah or a small town in Wasit, for example. We will analyze this problem and the findings or the solution of this problem will be generalized to whole the country or the whole of the city. So the researcher rule here to be objective and attached to minimize these problems and to avoid bias. So the common framework or the common design in applied linguistics will be experiments, survey, statistical analysis, and hypothesis testing. As we know that we start from general, we depict a theory or a hypothesis and moving to analyze this hypothesis and reach to the finding. Research methods always depends on the broad area or depicting the samples or the data that we wanted to analyze are gigantic or big or what we broad for or huge. So our specific is not suitable for the qualitative. When we want to test a gigantic or a broad sample, we have to choose which of the methods? Why?
Because it's general.
Yes.
From general
Yes.
to
It
specific.
deals with the large samples.
Large sample and more broad and coverage a wide area of results or findings to generalize it in the future. So the advantages of it is systematics and precise or go particularly to the point and control, ensuring the high reliable and the data or the findings in the future will be replicable. Do you have an idea about what is meant by replicable data? Replicable. Yes. The data, the findings will be replicable, Ahmed.
Using the same theory with different data
Okay, so why we replicate it?
to authenticate the theory.
Yes.
Is it working or not?
Because it is what?
It is
Fits.
fixed.
So it is what? Objectively
Reliability of the
good, good, very good. So after generalizing these in a broader population, and the third one, a long preparation phase, and it has a quality which is very fast and very easy and save efforts and time and money for the researcher and give a suitable findings, a suitable result for our research. So these results will be widely acceptable, especially with the academics and the policy makers. They rely on these findings and research. So let's move to other area, which is the disadvantage. So the negative area of this method, it cannot be fully capture the individual experience. As we know that our life, our real life, depends not only on the numbers, but depends on our personal experience, for example. So numbers cannot solve these problems. So the second one, when we test varieties, sometimes we have the same number, the same result. So here, quantitative method cannot deal with the same, doesn't have the idea, doesn't have the answer why we have the same numbers, for example, in the timetable for two varieties. So the idea here considered as a negative point for the quantitative method, and it is simplistic, make the most of things be simple or be simplistic and contextualize it. So it fails to, for example, explain what's behind the numbers. So it does. Yes.
Does that mean that having numbers is not necessarily having quantitative?
Sometimes.
Exactly.
Yes, sometimes.
Not always.
Yes, but not always. Sometimes we need to, for example, yes, sometimes when I have a research, for example, checking the performance of the EFL students, I start with the making tests for them and categorize or coding these in the timetable. If we rely on the timetable, on the numbers of the incorrect or errors that they find, only we will not enough solve these problems. We have to make an interview, which is related to what? Qualitative method to depict or to find the why, the answer, the why question behind these numbers. So it is often fails to capture why and how behind the numbers. So that's disadvantage. These negativities give us or lead us to make another way, to make another choices to solve this problem. So the origin of the other type of the method, which is the qualitative research emerged as an a reaction against the quantitative methods, bringing together scholars to different fields because it is not does not have the fixed structure like qualitative research. So qualitative research has been used in social science for over a century. At the beginning of the 19th century, the Chicago School used to study human social life. So far from numbers, so depicting the social human life, anthropologists like Bowes and Malinowski developed a field or framework for this method and move on. And after that, Glasser and Strauss, 1967, published their famous book, which is the discovery of a grounded theory. They criticize actually the qualitative research for being unstructured, more flexible. There is no structure to depict this method. So to challenge this problem, they introduces a systematic way to collect and count and analyze the qualitative data and make it more respectful, more reliable to depict in the future studies. So qualitative research is stemmed for the idea of constructivist, which means that assume that reality is what? Subjective, not objective. So socially constructed and context dependent. Everything depends on a context. So numbers without context, it fails. It doesn't give us the idea, the whole picture of our problem, and they give us the unreliable results. So it relies on different perspective and becomes more flexible in choosing our question, for example. So that means to give us an open-ended area to debate and choose our research question and answer for these questions. Sometimes even the wrong ideas, the wrong research give us another interpretation for our research. So Dizens and Lincoln state that qualitative research means different things to different people. So we have different things, we have different people, so we have to deal with these area, deal with these important issue in our life, so that they know that there is no simple prominent guiding for it. It is open-ended, and also it is guided by the researcher. So the key characteristics of this method, which is depends not on the numbers, as I said, it depends on what? Text. So text here is matter, even with the audio, visual data. So the approach is what? Inductively testing the hypotheses or the theories in deeper and get deeper to get the meaning or to get the social meaning behind our problem. So here the goal to explore the phenomena in depth, while in quantitative what? Breadth. So here the idea here depends on the depth of the information, depth of the behind the scenes, to understand the participant's perspective and to capture the complexity of the social context. So here the role of the researcher, the role of the writer primarily become the instruments of the data and collection and the acknowledges their subjectivity and reflexibility. So the main design of these, which is relies on the interviews, observation, case studies, thematic, and the narrative analysis. So here we are dealing with the words, not what? Numbers, by narration, observation, case studies, interviews, and etc. And also it depends on the depth of the scene of behind the meaning, and it deals with the what? the ideas or the sample or the data, not gigantic, small, small, detailed. So the observation of it or the qualitative research provide a rich, detailed, in-depth understanding for the ideas of the research. So that gives us an advantages. What are the advantages? It gives us a grade for exploring new topics, helping to uncover new highlights without relying on previous studies. This is a good point. We have to shed lights on it, because in quantitative, our starting point, our spark start from previous studies,
Theories.
while in qualitative research we rely on what?
Participants.
Research question, the problem of the research. So as a positive point, which is answering why behind the numbers, for example, why behind telling certain words, why we have this error, why we have this problem. So it is very broadens perspective, and instead of looking for one correct answer, explore multiple interpretation of a human experience. So attracts changes over time also, and adapts new things to go wrong, and produce engaging reports instead of just table and numbers. So qualitative research will equip us or to present finding using participants' real life stories. If we wanted to debate a story or narrative, a narration or a novel, for example, we cannot rely or impossible to rely on numbers. Number doesn't or don't answer the idea behind the narration on the human experience. The disadvantage of this method, which is a small sample size, less generalizable. So if we have the findings for this methods, we will face a problem, which is what? The less of the sample, and we cannot to a certain point generalize these findings, because what? It is specific, and the researchers also influenced that sometimes that leads some researchers to be biased and give us the chance to be biased and lack the standardized method, unlike qualitative research. Qualitative doesn't have the strict rule. As we said, it is what? Flexible. So it is lacks the standardized method, overly complex and narrow theories. And also the more important things, it doesn't save to a certain point the time. It gives, on the contrary, time is consuming and labor intensive to collect the data, and analyzing the qualitative data takes a lot of time and effort to analyze these ideas. So that these or this disadvantage, cons give us another field or another idea or another point of view or another approach, which is mixed method. Why we don't mix these methods to get or to be successful to kill these disadvantages and fill the gaps by the advantages of these two methods. So in the 70s, the concept of the triangulation emerged in these years in popular too in the social science, growing.
Mustafa, what
Yes.
is meant by triangulation? Just mentioned by yourself.
Yes.
What is meant by triangulation? Triangulation, sorry. And having how many?
Three angles. We have three angles. Yes. Yes. So triangles in research means using multiple methods, findings, and reduce bias, and as I said, to overcome the disadvantages or weaknesses of these areas. So at the last 15 years, the mixed method research has gained the immense popularity in applied linguistics. Actually, mixed method related to applied linguistics and grounded in pragmatic philosophy, which is, or it argues that researchers should whatever tools or use whatever tools to be best collecting the data and depicting the result to be best suitable to answer the research question. So the key characteristics here, data type both using what? Words, numbers, and mix them to solve our problem. And that means to, in this approach, combine the what? Deductive and inductive point of view. So the goal to give more comprehensive to understand and receive solve the research question or problem, and the qualitative could be achieved alone. So the concept triangulation here, using multiple methods to integrate between or among these methods to ensure the best and precise information or findings to our research. So what is the common design in the applied linguistics? So we have two or three ideas, three ways to start our research. For example, starting from quantitative,
Then
qualitative. So the sequential will be data collecting first, followed by qualitative data to explain the initial results. So starting by using the breadth and moving to depth to interview, for example, and the vice versa, using for another actually research and data, qualitative data collecting phenomena, and the findings are used to build a qualitative instrument. So it is very effective and safe and fill the gaps that are found with the single method. On the third way, which is the convergent parallel design, which is by using both of these methods at the same time to show both types data to collect simultaneously and merging during the analysis phase to compare what? The findings here. Yes, so also it has, this method has pros and what? Cons. The pros overcome the inherent or the disadvantages, the weaknesses of the previous methods of the single method approach, and provide both answer for both what and why of the deep context. The cons is highly resource intensive. It needs to be for time, efforts, fundings here, what? Money. Okay. Yes. And also require the researcher to be more what? Skillful. The skillfulity or the skills here very important, because if we lack the skills to integrate the triangulation between these areas, we'll fail to reach the findings of our research. So as a summary here, qualitative deals with the quantitative deals with the numbers and measure, test, hypotheses, and to be statistical and to be generalizable, while qualitative explore to understand the context, words, and generate theories, and the findings will be specific and can't be generalized. And mixed method to overcome the weaknesses of two methods in applied linguistics. Yes. So that's the end of our.
That's it, Mustafa?
Yes.